I'm bringing in some friends. This guy used to be in a National Football League town, but they left, not in the middle of the night, but sort of in a less than inspiring fashion to go to Los Angeles. He is my longtime friend and defending champion. He hosts radio on Sirius and does internet writings of all thing NFL. He's also one of the voters for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You can follow his work at BalzerFootball.com as well as at Balzer721, where I still love that 1981 draft photo of you, Howard Balzer. How goes it out in St. Louis where my heart breaks for you football fans?
Well, I mean, we've survived through almost half an NFL season, and I'm sure we'll survive the rest of it. And people still watching NFL games and playing fantasy and doing all that stuff and rooting, take special glee when the Rams lose on Sunday. I'm sure there's some people who still maybe root for them, but
I went through that with the Colts for 27 years, Howard. I'm familiar with it. I really am. You know what I mean? Yeah. I understand that angst. You carry that around a long time. At least I did.
And the thing that I think makes everybody kind of just laugh and chuckle a little bit is when you see pretty much the same thing going on with the football team. And it's almost as if, well, see, Los Angeles, we told you this was what you're getting. And, here they are sitting there at 3-4, mediocre as they normally are, with a first overall pick at quarterback that they traded 5 additional draft picks for. And when I say additional, in addition to the first round swap from 15 to 1, and he's sitting on the bench while the future Hall of Famer Case Keenum plays. And around the league, you have Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, and even Cody Kessler played pretty well for Cleveland, even though they haven't won a game. And so you see the rookie quarterbacks playing well, and Jeff Fisher just is as stubborn as he can be, saying that, well, Jared Goff isn't ready. So we kind of chuckle at all that.
Well, all of that would have been going on in St. Louis, right? I mean, it would have been your turn to say, why is Goff not playing? And I think everybody's wondering the same thing. But this really has been an unprecedented year for these young quarterbacks. I mean, it's kind of incredible what these kids are doing.
Yeah, it really is. And even throw Trevor Siemian in there for Denver. He's not a rookie, but he's playing for the first time. And so, yeah, but you know what? Here's my thing, Nestor, is that I don't know that we would be saying that in St. Louis for this reason, because I don't think they would have made that trade if the team was still in St. Louis, because no one will ever convince me that they did that for actual competitive reasons instead of just trying to make a splash and getting the first pick in the draft. I don't believe they make that deal. And if they wanted a younger quarterback, relatively high in the draft, they could have stayed where they were and taken Paxton Lynch and not given up all those other draft picks. And so there's some scouts and some people believe that Paxton Lynch could end up being just as good as Jared Goff. But they wanted, like I said, they wanted to make a splash. They wanted the first overall pick. They were going to be on Hard Knocks and all that. And now they can't get the guy on the field. It's pretty befuddling.
Well, you would also say that if Fisher doesn't want to put him on the field, Fisher's doing what's in Fisher's best interest. Maybe he doesn't give them the best chance to win a game. Maybe Case Keenum really does give them the best chance to win a game right now.
Well, I'm sure he does. But to me, that's not the point. The point is that, I don't think the Eagles at the time, when they traded Sam Bradford, truly believed that Carson Wentz gave them the best chance to win instead of Sam Bradford.
Sure.
But, of course, they got a first-round pick for Bradford. Wentz was their future, and they figured, hey, we'll just play him and let him take his lumps. As it's turned out, he hasn't had that many lumps. But the point, so Keenum probably does give them a marginally better chance to win. But so what? In my mind, if this guy's your future, and when you keep saying he's not ready, well, no. How do you know when someone's ready? You don't know if a guy's ready until he gets out in the field.
Yeah, it's not like a turkey, like where the little red button pops out.
Exactly. So whenever he gets on the field, he's going to go through a certain amount of growing pains. And in my mind, you just get that over with, or at least get through it as quickly as you can. Is there really that big a difference if the Rams win 7 games with Case Keenum or 5 with Jared Goff? No. But for every snap he takes, every game he plays, he is becoming more ready to play.
He is Howard Balzer. You can follow him at balzerfootball.com as well as at all22.com. Longtime NFL scribe in St. Louis, but from Philadelphia, which is a baseball town as well. And we'll talk some baseball before this is over with. But listen, I can't talk quarterbacks with you right now, Howard, without talking about our issue here. You know, we have a Super Bowl MVP quarterback. We have a quarterback who had some arm issues last week, certainly has some offensive line issues. I counted up the yards they rushed for on Sunday up at the Meadowlands, Howard. It was 6 yards rushing on 12 attempts. The fans are out for Flacco and Harbaugh on a 4-game losing streak now and a bye weekend coming up waiting for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, hey, man, the AFC North is still wide open. I mean, I know you're a baseball guy. I've told everybody around here it's kind of like the reason the Orioles have been good the last 5 years because the Yankees and the Red Sox haven't been to some degree. Right now, the Steelers and the Bengals are both scuffling, and they have their own issues with health as well as just winning football games. 9-7 might win this division, but it still doesn't make people feel better that Joe Flacco throws 2 picks and the team rushes for 6 yards.
No doubt. And, I always look at those rushing numbers, and I always look first at, their running backs ran for 10 because Flacco had -4 on a couple of runs. And so I kind of don't include that in. It does go against the rushing yards, but it's really not part of the true rushing game. And so, but either way, obviously, that's brutal. And we know that when the Ravens have been good, the running game was a big part of it. And that balances things and gives look at, and the offensive line obviously is a tremendous part of it too. And with all the injuries they've had, all we have to do, I always get amazed at the talking points that are on these shows. And I understand what all these TV shows are. It's all about coming up with a talking point and a narrative and to fill 10 minutes or whatever it is, a debate. And so yesterday on the 4-letter network, they're already going after one poor game. They're saying, well, it looks like Sam Bradford is who we thought he was. And I wonder if any of those people actually even watched the game that the Vikings played, where you talk about offensive line issues. They have 2 backup tackles in the game. They don't run the ball very well with Adrian Peterson. And Sam Bradford was a sitting duck. He was hit 12 times.
Well, Philadelphia plays a pretty good brand of defense. I mean, Schwartz has got him working up there. There's no doubt about that.
They do. And here's the irony about it, is that Sam Bradford tore his ACL for the second time in the summer of 2014 in the preseason game when a compromised Jake Long was at left tackle and just couldn't play anymore and totally missed a block, and the guy hit Bradford and he tore his ACL. Well, here's the Vikings with all these injuries at tackle trotting out Jake Long on Sunday to play left tackle. He didn't start, but he still got 13 snaps, and each snap was almost as worse than the last, and he just missed 2 blocks entirely that led to strip sacks of Bradford. He was lucky. I'm sure he's going, boy, did they really sign Jake Long? Do I really have to go through this guy?
I know
again?
You. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But that's, you look around the league, Nestor, and you see teams that struggle on offense, and a large part of the time it's because of their offensive line, whether the guys that they have anyway aren't real good or they're experiencing injuries. You look at Seattle, Sunday night against Arizona. They didn't have a very good left tackle to begin with, and then he gets hurt, and they're playing an undrafted rookie free agent at left tackle in a game against one of the better defenses in the NFL. And on top of that, people are talking about, Russell Wilson, what's wrong with him? Well, he can't run. Here's a great stat. I was looking at this last night. Russell Wilson in his 4 previous seasons has a total of 2,463 rushing yards and an average of 5.7 a carry and 12 touchdowns. This year, obviously, he's playing with a knee injury and a high ankle sprain. You know how many rushing yards he has in 7 games, Nestor?
Go for it.
33.
Wow.
On 22 carries. So they just say he can't run. And
Well,
so
Marshawn Lynch isn't there anymore either, and I saw Okung playing the other night in Denver. And yeah, I mean, you start to break this thing up. It's not what it used to be anymore, you know.
Exactly.
And we're having the same problems here, where 5 Pro Bowlers out, and for the offensive line. And I find this to be fascinating too, Howard. And you've been at this a long time. Even the offensive lines that are good at run blocking aren't necessarily good at pass. I mean, you almost get one or the other. I can't think of many who've done both well. And in some systems, like where the Colts would always protect Peyton Manning and he never got touched, or Tom Brady, they do it well enough for 3 seconds either way, but they're not truly a pass rush team or a run blocking team. There's some sort of hybrid, but there's not a whole lot of that going around system-wise.
There isn't, but a part of it, too, is that if you are good at run blocking and you're running the ball well, then most of the time you're staying away from those second and third and long.
Sure.
When these ridiculous pass rushers now and the athletes that teams have you can't be unleashed. If it's 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, 3rd and short, it's, I hate the word manageable, but it's not an obvious just come after the quarterback. You can try, but you can get rid of the ball quick. So many teams avoid the pass rush on offense because they're just getting the ball out quick with the passing game. Well, if you're 3rd and 10, that's not going to get you first down, or 2nd and 10, and so that's a huge factor. And so you have to have the components. The thing that drives me the most nuts when people analyze football is when I hear a quarterback's won-loss record, or he lost, or he won. I mean, this is the ultimate team sport, where 11 guys on the field at one time need to be in concert, playing together and working together. And if one piece is off, a lot of times that can blow up a play. But if a couple or 3 are, most of the time the quarterback doesn't stand a chance. Now, they'll make some plays. And here's what happens, Nestor. They tease us. A team will tease us. They'll make some plays here and there because no team is bad enough that you're just going to you're just not going to do anything. So you make some plays, but on third down efficiency in the red zone, that's where those problems truly rear their ugly heads, and you don't get any consistency. Everyone points to the quarterback, but all it takes is 2 eyes to look at what a team is and be able to figure it out. But yet, it seems so many are incapable of doing that.
Well, I'm writing this week. Howard Balzer joining us here. You can follow him at Balzer Football as well as at HBalzer721 out on Twitter. One of our defending champions around here and a Hall of Fame voter as well. I've been talking this week a little bit about the meanness of sports fans, right? So my competitor, is a CBS monolith radio station. Then they sit there and they take phone calls from people that don't know their ass from their elbow, quite frankly. And they have hosts that, quite frankly, don't hang out in Owings Mills and don't know their ass from their elbow either in many cases. But, Flacco's been getting annihilated here this week over the 2 interceptions. No one has taken the time to realize it was on Brashad Perryman both times in running the wrong route, not looking for the football. The second one was an overthrow because Perryman cut the route short. And fans don't understand that. And I guess the part of having 5 Pro Bowlers out, and this is where one is part of the other, Howard. Suggs, Yanda, Smith, all these guys are out. They're in their 30s. Then you got Stanley and Mosley, your 2 first-round draft picks last 4 years, out. You have Perryman, the other first-round pick, who's finally gotten onto the field, who's either dropping the ball or not running the right routes and head hanging after the game in the locker room because clearly his teammates were a little down on him and the offensive coordinator, everybody else was down on him. It really picks up speed when you lose 4 games in a row, but it's a lot harder when you don't have Doomerville, you don't have Suggs, you don't have Smith, you don't have Yanda. I mean, you're missing Pro Bowl players and your quarterback's got a sore shoulder. You're going to struggle even against the Jets. And that's where we are here going into the bye. I mean, the Ravens need to get healthy.
You're 100% right. And to me, one of the biggest fallacies in sports is the whole next man up, because that's all, coaches have to say that. Coach can't get up there in front of the media and start bemoaning the injuries, because then everyone labels him an excuse maker and all that. So they all talk about next man up and blah, blah, blah. And yes, there are times when the next man up gets in there and does a good job. But for the most
Wally
part,
Pipp comes to mind.
right, but for the most part, the reason a guy is on the bench is he's not good enough to start, and that's why he's on the bench. But the danger is what happens is when we in the media start talking about, well, the injury, or this guy say, well, look at this team, they overcame these injuries. Well, there's always an outlier, but it's not consistently that way, and that's just reality. But I think the meanness, whatever you want to call it, is no one wants to even take the time to understand it. They just want to have somebody to rip. And it's always the easiest in football. What's the order? Head coach, coordinator, quarterback. And that's what it comes down to. I always love it after games when someone criticizes the play calling, as if anyone has any clue about what goes into play calling and the game planning and all those things, that happen. But oh yeah, it's the play calling. Come on.
You're starting to sound like me now. You're starting to sound like a cranky old guy. But it really is true. Where everybody has a voice. Back in the day, and I know you did sports radio, but probably before I did sports radio in the 80s, and I'm celebrating 25 years of doing this. We used to be a group therapy outlet, and there used to be some level of, well, maybe the guy on the radio does know more because he talks to the coach and he's in the locker room and they tell him things and he reports it that way. But the whole barstool mentality of what sports has become has led to this sort of lynching of the quarterback. And the most popular guy in town is always the backup quarterback, right? We know that, right? It was that way in Indianapolis. It's probably that way in New England, even, for crying out loud. But in the case of the Ravens, you have any hope that they have not fallen and they can't get up? I mean, certainly you've seen the schedule at the end of the year, but you also know Pittsburgh's a little diminished. Cincinnati's very diminished at this point. It is a little bit of a foot race amongst mediocre teams. Around here, the bar's been so high, set by all of these teams at 12 and 13 and 14 wins a year. That's not the way it's going to be for the Ravens this year. They can be sort of mediocre and get by to 9 or 10 wins if they win the right games and win this division.
It's certainly, you don't give up because you never know. But obviously the things we've talked about have to get better for it to happen. And again, it starts on the offensive line where, two starters out and Wagner's been beat up and all those things, and figuring out, who the running back is. And, Terrence West is a classic, boomer bust guy. He'll have a good game and then he disappears. And I'm not convinced that, he's going to be a guy week in and week out that can be your quote go-to bell cow running back. And so they have to figure it out. And once you're into the season, it's not like baseball most of the time where you can find somebody who's suddenly going to come on your team and maybe change your fortunes. It just doesn't happen very often in football. So you're pretty much stuck with who you have unless something crazy happens. I mean, you look at Tampa Bay, for example. There was doom and gloom in Tampa Bay last week when they thought they were getting Doug Martin back after the bye, and then he aggravated his hamstring. That Charles Sims on injury reserve, and they don't know what the heck they're going to do. And all of a sudden, Jacquizz Rodgers, who best season in the NFL since coming to the league in 2011, his best season was a total of 362 yards or 320, something like that. He goes for 154 against the 49ers on Sunday. I mean, who could have, on the road, who could have ever anticipated that happening? Can he do it every week? That's the big question. They hope to get Martin back. But the point is that you just don't find anybody at this time of the year. Maybe you can make a trade, but teams are very reluctant to trade good players because if you have depth, once you lose your depth, once you have one injury, you don't have any depth anymore. And so that's why there's very few trades in the NFL. So there's not a whole lot you can do except hope that the guys you have just improve and get better.
Ravens started 3-0. They dropped 4 in a row. Now they can't win or lose, although they are a 3-point underdog to bye this week. That's a little inside humor there for you, Howard. Miami's running the ball well, and other teams are starting to emerge as maybe not being as sleepy, and Buffalo will be one of them as well, as they appeared maybe in week 2 or week 3. The last month have been good to a couple of these teams that are sort of coming on.
And the Buffalo-Miami game is a classic example of what we're talking about. On the Buffalo side, they had Sean McCoy, but he didn't do anything. He just wasn't 100%, anywhere close to 100% with the hamstring, and they couldn't run the ball. And that's what they do well. And so by not running the ball, they weren't able to keep the ball out of Miami's hand. And the Dolphins, on their offensive line, really had some issues early. Brandon Albert wasn't playing. They had young guys that they were playing. Mike Pouncey wasn't playing early. He came back, and all of a sudden, the line has been together. Tunsil, the first-round pick, is improving week by week. And all of a sudden, they're getting after people, and they're running the ball like crazy. And Brandon Albert had a comment to the media, I guess it was after the game Sunday, where he said, I kept telling you guys, don't get, he used the term, don't get your panties in a bunch. And he said, and you guys were all laughing at me by saying that. But I said, I knew. It was ugly there for a while. But once we got our guys back on the line, we knew what we were capable of. And boom, what happens? Ajayi goes for, over 200 2 weeks in a row. And obviously that's not going to happen every week. But with a healthy offensive line and guys playing together, all of a sudden you have the ability to do some things offensively. If you don't have that line, and that's true of any team, and I think that's one of the biggest issues in the NFL right now, is offensive line play. And there's a variety of reasons for it. But if you don't have that line, whoever you are, what do we keep saying about Dallas? All anybody ever says is, oh boy, look at that team with that excellent offensive line. They can run, they can pass, they're winning with Dak Prescott. 2 years ago they ran with DeMarco Murray. They kept the ball out of their defense's hands. And everyone talked, so they I always call it, Nestor, collective amnesia. Most people have amnesia from like 10 minutes ago. And so everyone says that about the Cowboys, but then when they get a team that has no line and guys banged up and the quarterback doesn't play well, they start pointing at the quarterback and don't look at the offensive line as a huge contributing factor in it. It's just totally contradictory. It makes no sense.
Well, we're all going to have to decide who's president in a couple of weeks, but I think the bigger decision is going to be for Jerry Jones, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, if that were mine, I don't like the Cowboys. I don't root for the Cowboys, but if that's my football team, it's quite a conundrum now, isn't it?
It appears to be one. I don't know how you take the kid out when they're playing like they are. And I know, the whole thing, well, it's Tony Romo's team. Well,
is it?
Maybe it is, but he hasn't played in basically a year. I mean, we're almost into November, and he played 4 games last season, and he's hardly played this year at all. He hasn't played in the regular season, obviously, but in the preseason he hardly played because of how early he got injured. And so, how can you have any confidence that all of a sudden what they've built up with the rhythm on offense and the passing game, and they've been doing it, remember, without Des Bryant, how can you have any confidence that when Romo comes back that he'll play well? There's going to be some rust there. It's inevitable. We have this vision of these guys that they miss time, and when they get back on the field, all of a sudden they're going to be the same as they were when they left the field. Well, that's often very, very unrealistic. And so, like I said, I don't know how you take Prescott out of the lineup. Now, if Romo was ready after week 3 or week 4, even if they were winning, you can say, okay, it's still early. But here, he's not going to play. Romo's not going to play this week. So now we're, 7 games in for the Cowboys. And so it's halfway through the season. That's pretty dangerous to me to go away from Prescott when you're playing the way he is and the way this team is right now. I just don't see how you make that change.
He is our Balzer, HBalzer 721 and Balzer Football, as well as at all22.com. He's a very available individual. Look, man, we're all talking about all these other teams. We know the Patriots are just going to win the Super Bowl again, right?
They'll probably be there unless something, obviously, there's some good teams, in the AFC, not great teams, but, if you see, you could see a Denver doing some things again defensively against the Patriots that could, slow them down. Kansas City is solid, but I just don't see, there's not a whole lot else in that conference that could legitimately challenge them, I don't think, in a big game. They are just so good, so consistent that it's just very difficult to beat them year after year. It's really phenomenal when you look at it. And granted, it's been with basically one quarterback the whole time, and heck, they've won games when Brady hasn't been there. But the program and the culture, that consistency that Bill Belichick has there it's just unbelievable. There's not a lot of words to describe it. So yeah, someone could step up on a day and beat them, but there's no question that they are the tremendous favorites to get to the Super Bowl and likely win.
I'm just hoping that the Rolling Stones concert that the Kraft Boys put together on Tuesday night sort of tires them out a little bit, softens them up a little bit for our visit in December. Howard, it's always great to see you. Speaking of soft, I got to get some of that soft serve out there at Ted Drew's. I got to get back to St. Louis. I think a baseball game with the Cardinals next summer is the way to. Pretty good World Series we got brewing up here, right? We've seen a lot of stuff. We ain't never seen this, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And for the Cubs, I mean, it is a national story that they are just in the Super Bowl. And of course, my family, or at least I should say my extended family, I guess, if you will, with my wife and her family are all Illinois people, and they all grew up Cubs fans.
Oh.
And they were, and especially I feel good for my wife's mom. I don't know if you saw the interview Saturday night with that older woman,
90-year-old woman, yeah, absolutely.
Is that what she is, 90?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I was guessing that she was in her early 80s. She didn't look 90. My wife's mom...
Especially for being a Cubs fan, because that'll age you.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. My wife's mom is 89 and a big Cubs fan. They were Bears fans, of course,
Nice.
All that. And I'm really, really glad for them. And, when you heard Dorothy being interviewed and said, I couldn't help but think about my brothers, who were Cubs fans who aren't with us anymore. My dad, of course, who's not with us anymore. There's generations of Cubs fans now seeing this who think about their deceased relatives and friends who never got the opportunity to witness something like this, just even being in the World Series. And so to me, and it's not a popular opinion to have in St. Louis, but to me, you can't help but feel good for all those people and what that team is accomplishing.
Well, it's going to get loud at the Balzer residence. I'm rooting for the Tribe, Howard. I mean, I just am. So, I'm a Tribe guy. I'm a Tito guy this week, so I have my Wahoo going on. Hey, enjoy the baseball games. Hang out for the football. I'll check in with you again in a month or two, and we'll talk some more about football. Love having you on, Howard. Be well out there.
Take care, man. Always enjoy it.
Stay warm out in St. Louis, Missouri. He is BalzerFootball.com as well as All22.com and HBalzer721 out on Twitter. Howard Balzer, our friend from St. Louis of Philadelphia. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live as well as on our WNSTV YouTube channel. The Buy a Toyota Audio Vault is there for you 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can download, listen when you want, where you want, how you want, to what you want. It's the way we do it around here. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.